And then when you do each audience
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. This is our last little Zoom session with the whole cohort, the whole tribe, before we land in London. I know some of you actually start taking off in less than a week. And I know the South Australian crew also have a real world face-to-face get-together coming up as well. So that's awesome. Won't be able to make that one, but good that you're getting to connect before we all head over. Today's workshop is to run through a couple of last-minute logistics pieces, make sure everyone has everything sorted. Oh, Emma, you take off tomorrow. That's awesome. Yeah, just to make sure that everyone has everything sorted. A few things on how to prepare for the week. We'll talk a little bit today about cultural nuances of UK versus Australia, particularly in the business context. Partly because, yes, we both nations love their beer and cricket and other things, and we do speak English, but at the same time, it sometimes is like we are speaking different languages. So we'll go through those nuances in a business context. And then at the end, we'll actually spend a bit of time doing your elevator practice pitches. And the reason for that is we'll spend a lot of time in the week networking and meeting a lot of people. A couple of the events, you'll be meeting up to 300 people. And it's very important to be able to convey what you're doing so that you can quickly get to an outcome from all those interactions. So we'll talk a bit about that, and then everyone will get a chance to do a practice elevator pitch. Awesome. Before we get into our content piece, though, I'd like to welcome two guests that we have on the call. I think we have at least two. First, Lucy, who is the Deputy Consul General for Queensland, and Kirsty, who many of you may have already received emails from, but Kirsty is basically the one that's pulling together a lot of the schedule for the entire ANZ delegation, and has been working Australian and UK time zone times to make all of this work. Just an incredible powerhouse in terms of our scheduling and support. So thank you for all of that, Kirsty. But Kirsty and Lucy, I might invite you to speak to the group, share your insights, partly on why UK, but those insights around how the company should be thinking ahead of the mission over. And yeah, really appreciate both of you taking time. I know you're both incredibly busy, and Lucy, it's fantastic to have you join us on the call. So really appreciate you both joining us.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Kirsty, shall I kick off first, and then you can jump in if you've got anything more to add. And Kirsty will also be on the call with you for the duration, so I can pick up anything that I have missed as well. So yeah, good morning. It's really great to be here speaking today. And just before I begin properly, I'd just like to respectfully acknowledge traditional custodians on the land where I live and work, and pay my respects to elders past and present. So as Aaron said, I'm Lucy, and I'm the British Deputy Consul General based in Brisbane, covering Queensland and the Northern Territory. And as you also said, Kirsty Whitford, who's our sector lead technology in our technology team, is also joining on the call. So thank you again, Aaron and Maren at Tribal Global Ventures, for having us on the call today and for your ongoing partnership with London Tech Week. The UK government's been a strategic partner of London Tech Week for many years now, and I'm really excited to see this year's contingent of innovative companies from South Australia, and particularly from the Gold Coast, as I'm biased because I'm based in Queensland. My colleagues and I are really looking forward to learning more about each of your companies and sharing what makes the UK the right next step for your expansion journeys. So for the UK government, and particularly our Department of Business and Trade, or DBT, as you'll hear us refer to it as, because we do love a good acronym in the UK government. And this is what we find really satisfying. It's supporting Australian companies in their journey to scale and expand internationally. Though the UK and Australia are nearly 7,000 miles apart, the links between our countries are stronger than ever. With the UK-Australia Free Trade Agreement set to enter into force at the end of this month, the agreement will look to deliver a range of additional benefits, such as market access, including bidding on government contracts, improved business mobility arrangements and data flow, and commitments to strengthen digital trade. We believe that the UK is the best place to scale a digital business because of our strategic location, tech ecosystem, and culture that effectively supports serial founders and entrepreneurs. And the UK offers access to an open economy with a mature consumer market of around 67 million people. We're at the forefront of the next generation of business, where government incentives foster new innovations and collaboration with industry. Our tech market is the biggest in Europe and the third largest in the world, and it's currently valued at over $1 trillion. In 2023, we expect that our tech startup and scale-up ecosystem will be raising over $50 billion in venture capital investment and employing over 5 million people in the UK. London, as you may expect, is a hub for much of this activity, but it's not the only area in the UK leading in startup investment. Bristol and Oxford also rank amongst the top 20 European hubs. And Scotland and Northern Ireland are full of exciting opportunities. And we have colleagues at the Scottish Development International and Invest Northern Ireland who are here to help expand, to support your expansion journey into those markets. Over 11,000 digital tech companies call Scotland home, and 73,700 people are already working in professional tech roles in Scotland, with a strong and growing tech talent pipeline. Scotland is the UK's second largest financial service cluster outside of London, and also develops advanced technology applications. Northern Ireland enjoys an international reputation as a region of expertise and knowledge in the tech development, and has one of the fastest growing tech sectors in the UK. Northern Ireland has a strong base of business clusters and has become a global fintech hub, with Belfast recognised as Europe's leading FDI destination for new software development and a top city for fintech inward investment. So now on to London Tech Week itself. You're about to see firsthand the scale and atmosphere of the tech ecosystem in the UK. And next month, you'll be part of a cohort of over 180 ANZ tech startups across digital transformation, AI, fintech, creative tech, clean tech, future technology, and more as you head to London Tech Week for its 10th anniversary. And while London Tech Week itself has its own fantastic programme for you to take part in, we're really also looking forward to having you join us at the DBT ANZ-led events across the week. Our London Tech ANZ Masterclass series includes masterclasses on scaling and top tips for expansion, important legal considerations, and Tribe Global's raising capital session, plus networking evenings before and during the conference. The DBT ANZ programme will give you more information about why the UK is an important next step and what else you need to consider when expanding into the UK. And it'll help you to explore and better understand our diverse regions. DBT, so as a reminder, that's our Department of Business and Trade, provides extensive support to companies as you go global and expand into the UK. Everything from bespoke market research to network and industry connections, and support on all operational details, including banking, visas, and tax, plus making the most of these new trade deals and digital economy agreements. We can connect you with sector specialists and answer any questions you might have. Our support is bespoke and tailored to you and your company, and it is completely free of charge. And if you'd like more information on this before you leave, please speak to my colleague Kirsty Whitford, who's also on the call with us. Kirsty, along with my colleagues Tanya and Annette, will also be joining you in London. So please do go and see them and learn more about how the UK government in Australia can help support you. And when you return, we'd really love to stay in touch with you. As I said, I'm based in Queensland, so particularly love to hear from the Gold Coast companies, but I have colleagues based all around Australia who I know would love to hear from all of you. So let us know how we can continue to help you and how, and let us know how you found London Tech Week. So I'll now hand back to Aaron. I'm sorry that I won't be joining you in London. I really wish that I was, but I know our team is really looking forward to meeting you all in June. Thank you.
Thanks, Lucy. We'll be sure to share lots of photos just to emphasize the FOMO. I really appreciate your support. It is phenomenal, the level of UK government support that exists. I think, one lesson for us to take from the week when we head over for London Tech Week is just how much the UK government invests in the tech and innovation ecosystems. And it's a real lesson. You'll see the gap, actually. It's a real comparison to, I think, what Australia is not doing in this space. But it is fantastic that, the South Australian government has stepped up to provide some funding for some of you and the city of Gold Coast as well. Kirsty, would you just like to introduce yourself to the group and give a little context for yourself as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. It's so good to see you all, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you all in person when we're in London. So My name is Kirsty Whitford. As Lucy mentioned, I'm the sector lead for our technology team. So primarily my role is actually supporting UK companies moving into the Australia and New Zealand markets, but more and more I'm also going to be supporting Australia and New Zealand tech companies moving into the UK market. And obviously London Tech Week is such a fantastic opportunity to really give you a better sense of what you can achieve while you're in the UK. Obviously, we've mentioned London. We all love London, and it's such an important, innovation hub. But also being able to get you out into the different regions, see what else they have to offer, including Scotland and Northern Ireland. So we're here really to be a resource for you as you're looking at your expansion journey. Whether we can provide advice, whether we can provide contacts, essentially anything that will make that journey more helpful. But I will be, I guess, your point of contact on the ground for both the ANZ and DBT programs. I know Aaron and Maren have been sending through what's available to you throughout the week, but obviously London Tech Week, as you will have seen already, is quite a messy time. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of things that can divide your attention. So I think for us, it's all about you guys having a look. Planning really does make perfect. Go through, make sure you've got a really solid understanding of what program opportunities are available to you, what sections of the London Tech Week program itself that you want to go to. Then obviously I know Aaron and Maren have been working with you on the business matching side. So what associations are there that you can be talking to? What other companies can you be talking to understand their journey into the market as well? And we'll be doing our best to connect you into as much of those opportunities as possible. I mean, for us, one of the main things is just you're going to be meeting so many people while you're over there, not just the cohorts, but also all the other international delegates that are traveling into London. There's going to be a sizable contingent from not only the rest of APAC, but also the US and Europe as well. So I guess I don't need to tell you this, but follow-up is so key. And these are hopefully the relationships you'll build now that are going to make your expansion journey even easier. I guess practical stuff for those of you who haven't gone across to London before or haven't gone into London Tech Week. Citymapper is your guru of how to get around. It has the buses, it's got the trains, it's obviously got all the walking maps as well. So I really highly encourage you to download that on your phone now if you don't have it already. And that's really going to make your life so much simpler. But that's just, I guess, a couple of notes from me. Like I mentioned, so looking forward to meeting all of you. And please don't hesitate to reach out ahead of time if you need anything else from me. So I will hand back to Aaron. And thank you both so much, you, Aaron and Maren, for your continued support of London Tech Week. And, it's so exciting that we get to work with you and your cohorts year on year.
Yeah, thanks, Kirsty. I really appreciate everything you do and particularly taking the time today. Just before we kick off into stepping through everything, we do have a lot to get through today, but I just want to pick up on, I guess, 2 points there that Kirsty mentioned. First of all, in terms of the support like you have from the UK government and all the other agencies, just like it's really up to you to be proactive in chasing that. Understand that there are over 180 Australian, New Zealand founders just like you, all part of official delegations that are heading over to London Tech Week. And in addition to that, there's probably another 100 who are not part of delegations who are just getting on planes on their own accord. So the UK DIT team and DBT and the rest of all the support agencies are absolutely inundated. So what that means is you have to not only help yourself, but also help them help you. So the more specific you can be in your requests, down to not just, I want to speak to someone in automotive, not just, I'd like to be connected to Ford, but being quite specific, like, what are you looking for? What type of connection are you looking for? Down to ideally even the individual or the role title. I appreciate many of you have done that work already. So Maren shared the connection request spreadsheet, Google Sheet that you all went into and filled out a lot of that detail. That's fantastic. We've shared that with the South Australian Office of the Agent General, with Trade Investment Queensland, with the UK Australia Chamber of Commerce, and also a couple of other just private connections that we have. So if they can assist, they will reach out and support you. The second thing that Kirsty mentioned there as well is just around the other Australian and New Zealand founders that you'll meet during the week. So we'll see each other a fair bit. So even though we have our own delegation and we've carved out a lot of our own content in the week, there is a lot of overlap with the broader delegation schedule, particularly that first Sunday where we all get together at the pub, but also a couple of other events. It is really, I know we're there to meet the UK market, but what I would encourage you to do is actually connect with other Aussie and Kiwi founders who are in your space. So they're great connections to keep post-mission. If you can find 2 or 3 others that are on the same path as you in the same industry vertical, that's a fantastic outcome to keep and maintain that relationship going forward. It'll just increase your lapse of learning and speed to market. I'm going to share my screen now. And please, as normal, interrupt at any point. I have 2 young kids, so I'm completely used to it. But yeah, please do just open mic at any time, ask any questions, and make sure we're delivering value. Just a couple of things. So first of all, with this session, I'd highly encourage you to take a piece of paper and write notes, or if you're younger than me, digital notes, whatever format works for you. But there are a lot of action items here, and it's important we're making sure we're getting shit done. So first of all, I believe everyone is now in Slack, which is fantastic. You should be actively watching that Slack channel. You'll notice, Maren and I are sharing a lot of satellite events and fringe events. We're tagging individuals to take a look at different things we're finding. But this will be, particularly as you all start getting on planes, this will be the primary communication platform we use. Once we're over in the market, this is how we will communicate with you. So if you haven't already, make sure you've got Slack on your mobile device. You don't have to have notifications on yet, but when we're in the UK market, we'll ask you all to put notifications on, because often there are things like venue changes or a speaker cancels or there's some opportunity arise and we need to do things quickly. So if you're not already actively in Slack, please jump in. We've already been sharing a heap of content in there. Next, just to go through the boring stuff. So logistics, I've crossed off the ones that we know you have all completed, but just quickly, has anyone not booked their flights at this point? Like, I know you might be uncomfortable sharing that in front of the group, but if you have not booked your flights yet, just drop that in the chat window, just so that Maren and I can be even more stressed and I can have more grey hair. But please let us know if you haven't booked flights yet, if you need help finding flights. But otherwise, we're going to assume on the basis at this point that everyone has flights booked. Please also make sure you have travel insurance. So I can't emphasize this enough. If something happens, like a terrorist event or another pandemic outbreak, or you just fall sick and cannot travel, this is your financial get out of jail free card. So please make sure you've got travel insurance. If anyone doesn't have travel insurance yet, write that down as a to-do straight after this call, please, because it's really important. I think you would have, I know some of you are bringing your co-founders. I know most of you have extended your stay. Yes, travel insurance providers, I can't remember who I went through now.
We went through Southern Cross Insurance, but Covermore or World Nomads, sort of quite reputable companies.
Yeah, I've used World Nomads before, and I've seen them get heli-back people out of situations very quickly. So they're a great one in terms, I highly recommend them. But yeah, just make sure you've got coverage. The other thing is make sure your passport has at least 6 months validity left on it from June. So in other words, it's valid through the end of December. For those of you staying on to late June into even July, make sure your passport is valid until January. So it's just one of the things they look at, making sure your passport is valid for a 6-month period, because they don't want you staying there. They want you to leave and come back home. But also check the visa requirements. So if you're an Aussie, you'll be fine, but just check your own personal situation. Also check requirements if you're traveling through other countries or have any stopovers. Just make sure you meet any of those countries' COVID vaccination requirements, for example. The UK this year, there's no requirement to demonstrate vaccinations or anything. There has been in the past, but you're right to travel through. I'm going to come back to the London Tech Week one. Just 2 other things to think about before you go. One is your mobile roaming. So if you are planning to use your Australian mobile SIM while you're in market, you can enable mobile roaming and basically pay a fee per day is the way most of them work. So Telstra, I think it's $10 a day while you're in market. You get a pretty limited data allocation with that. Vodafone and Optus have similar things. I think they're much better terms than Telstra. The alternative is you actually get a SIM when you land, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And the last one is just that reminder to sort your home and personal affairs. So making sure that everything's set up to run smoothly, that your pet goanna is going to be fed while you're away, and just make sure that someone's going to feed the kids as well. But we're going to assume at this point that everyone has all their logistics sorted and we're pretty much set to go. Are there any logistics questions though? Any questions about flights, travel insurance, any of that? No.
Quick question regarding the Oyster card. I know a lot of us are leaving prior to London Tech Week starting. Are we able to receive our Oyster cards prior to departure? Unfortunately, no, can't get it to you before departure. Two things on that though. So when you land at the very first briefing on the Sunday, we will issue the Oyster cards. Just so everyone's clear on that, basically it's got 50 pounds of credits, about 100 Aussie loaded on there. That's more than enough. Basically, when you use the tube or buses, you hit a daily limit. It sort of maxes out at a daily max. So there's more than enough on there for unlimited travel for the week. You can top that up at any time, but the bus and tube in the UK, you can actually just use your credit card. So you can just swipe, just like you would swipe an Oyster card, you can actually use a card. The only challenge with that is every time an Aussie does that, you have the transaction overhead fees of Aussie banks who like to gouge, 30% on top of everything. So yeah, but unfortunately we can't get it to you in advance. Good question though. Moving on from logistics, if there's no other logistics questions, I just want to make sure. Yep.
I'm just going to throw in there, don't forget we have that Notion guidebook and there's a ton of logistics information there as well. So you might have to circle back to that for any more information that you want to look up.
Yeah, and actually that reminds me, to Kirsty's point, you can download Citymapper before you head over. It is a great app. I actually found last year Google Maps had improved significantly. So last year I found Google Maps to actually be more effective. But if you are using Google Maps, you might want to go ahead and download the London map data before you go. So there is actually a way you can download the map data to your phone just to save you hitting the internet. It also means when you're underground on the tube and there's no signal, you can still actually see the Google Maps. So if you are going to use Google Maps, I encourage you can go into the app and download the London map data before you go. The other thing on that is to check your what other apps are using data. So given the limitations of roaming data and everything else, you might want to go into your phone and turn off a whole heap of mobile data access for different apps. Totally up to you though, how you want to manage that. The other thing, Maren, do you want to just talk through this one in terms of the email everyone needs to make sure they have?
Yes, so by now you should have all received a confirmation email from London Tech Week, just to say that your VIP pass is granted. Keep that email, save it somewhere, download it and keep it in a folder. You might need it when we collect the physical passes on the Monday morning. There's just a good reference to have. If you don't have an email like that, please let me know. And I will follow up either through Kirsty or directly with London Tech Week. So flag that with me straight away if you don't have an email like that. So do a quick search. Yeah, and then we're going to talk about the adventure one later, Aaron.
What was that one?
The choosing the adventure, is that on?
It wasn't, but yep, we should absolutely talk about that.
Yes, so I'm the harasser. So I'm going to tell you that only 15 people have chosen their adventure so far for the Tuesday. So if you haven't chosen your adventure, so this is the form that I sent out earlier in the week, and I've also dropped it in Slack. This is for the Tuesday of London Tech Week. So as Kirsty was saying, there is quite a lot happening on Tuesday. There's a lot of programs and events running in parallel. So instead of choosing for you, we thought it's better if you choose what is most valuable to you. We've given you some recommendations and pointers, what to expect and what to get out of each one of those sessions. So please go into that form. I will drop it in the chat window in a minute again, but if you can please complete all of that by tomorrow, just so we can make sure everyone has an event or a program to attend on the Tuesday. If you don't know what to choose, flick me a Slack message or Aaron, and we're more than happy to guide you in the right direction.
Cool. The last 2 workshops, we talked about this homework piece, just about getting a collateral ready for being in market. So again, the point of this is just to have your digital assets, things like business cards, all set to go. Have a templated email introduction template. Like, so when you meet someone, you can do quick follow-ups. When we land in London and we kick off on the Sunday, we'll be meeting in the hotel lobby bar, and I'll give a bit of a welcome briefing. During that, I'll give you some tips for how to keep track of the connections that you meet and how to follow up, because you will get to the end of the day having met 50 people who are all incredibly valuable, and you'll forget what you were supposed to be catching up with each of them about. So we'll go through some of that on the Sunday, but between now and then, it is good to have, a short PDF file up, updated. Now, if you're going for investment, have an investment deck or something you can share. If you're planning on doing email intros, which you all should be, you should have a little blurbs templated ready to go. The other point that I made in the last couple of sessions is don't schedule a product launch between now and London Tech Week. I know it's very tempting. I don't know about any of you, but I tend to work really well to a deadline, and something like getting on a plane means I want to get all the work done before I go. And the number of times I've shipped source code and into production right before stepping on a plane and completely screwed myself, I don't even want to admit. So just be aware of upcoming workload, look at the risk, and just mitigate for it right now. Some packing tips. So in the Notion website, so the mission handbook, there's a list in there of things to pack. It's pretty, I think we covered off everything, but just some key ones here. So number one, I encourage you to have some sort of day pack. I know this sounds obvious, but during the day, we'll be out from early morning. So a couple of the days we start, I apologize if you can hear all the trucks going past. There's a major development behind my place and it's insane today. But yeah, have some sort of day pack, because we are out from a couple of mornings. We kick off at 7:30 and we're not back until about 11 at night. So a day pack where you can, if you want your laptop, a journal, pens, water bottle, that sort of thing. Definitely think when you're packing, think of layers. So yes, it is their summer, but it is England. Have layers. I mentioned on here exercise gear. So there will be a group of us that run each morning, but I encourage you to take a little bit of time to yourself, particularly if you're naturally more of an introvert type, or even if you're not an introvert, you'll find you need time alone to actually process a lot of the thoughts and a lot of the content you take in. So I'm a huge advocate of taking some time pre-dawn in the morning to yourself, or out with a running group, or whatever your method is. I definitely am an advocate of exercising each morning during something like this. So take your gear. Also take photocopies of passports, visas, key documents, your travel tickets. I know we all tend to keep this stuff digitally now, but there's nothing like getting off a plane and realizing all your devices are flat and you've got no charger, and you can't find key information, or you've lost documents. So just take photocopies of key documents. Obviously, any medications and vitamins. The other one here, grab yourself a power adapter for the UK PowerPoints. I recommend taking an Aussie power board, like just a small little power board that you then plug into that adapter, just so you can plug in more of your devices for charging. So you don't have to bunny hop things through one adapter. I encourage you to take a battery pack. You'll be taking a lot of notes during the day, and you'll be using your phone for Slack, for photos, for probably like sending emails, post a meeting or key interaction, looking people up on LinkedIn. So your mobile battery will drain very fast each day. So I encourage you to take a pretty powerful battery pack with you. The last point on this list is just to let you know that on the first Sunday, we'll be giving each of you a mission t-shirt, a water bottle, a journal, and a workbook. So just factor that in. If you're like my co-founder, Lainey, she likes to, really push the limits of what she can get into overhead carry-on and never actually check a bag. So if we give her a water bottle when she's in the UK to bring back, she freaks out because she can't fit it in. So just factor that in. You won't need to take your own water bottle. We'll have one for you. Any questions on what to pack?
One thing I would add is what has come handy in the past, especially with jet lag, is Berocca is great to get you through those busy days, but also melatonin to get you sleeping at nighttime and to get you into that rhythm. So, and comfortable shoes, especially to the ladies in the cohort. Comfortable shoes and dry shampoo works wonders.
Yes, definitely comfortable shoes. Barry, with dress code, yeah, so it's very similar to Australia, but slightly more formal. So you'll see a lot of the Brits during the week will be wearing suits, not necessarily ties. You will see a lot of men wearing suit and tie. That said, startup ecosystems tend to be the same globally, where you can wear a startup t-shirt and still fit in. There are two events which are slightly more formal. So the Chamber of Commerce drinks, the Tech Australia event, people tend to dress up a little bit more than that. So there'll be lots of people there, jacket and tie. Personally, I'll just be in a blazer for those sort of events. I won't bother with a tie at all during the week. I definitely won't be taking a suit. Then our dinner is slightly more formal. So if you do want to get a little bit dressed up, but again, you could rock up in a t-shirt. No one's going to bat an eyelid. But the Brits are a little bit more formal. What I would say is just think about your client base. So, you should all be having meetings with potential clients that week. Just think more about how you represent your brand, how you represent your professionalism, and just thinking about that target audience. I will talk a little bit about the cultural nuances too. Just when you land, because this is probably our last, I was going to say face-to-face, but our last proper catch-up before we all start getting on planes and we release the bag of marbles that is all of us into London. We are next meeting at the hotel, which is the Ibis London City, at 2 p.m. on the Sunday, the 11th. So it's your job to get yourself to the hotel. Now, the best way to get from the airport to the hotel, I think, is the Heathrow Express, which is a train. It's relatively cheap. It's super fast. It's 15 minutes. It is comfortable. It's very modern. There's Wi-Fi on the train. There's space for all your bags. That'll get you in, and then you just cab it from the train station from there to the hotel. If there's a group of you landing at the same time, you could grab a cab together, or even there's a service called Black Lane, which is like you book essentially like a limousine or a town car. It's not like, if there's a group of you going, it's reasonably cost effective, but it's just the uncertainty. You could spend easily an hour, hour and a half, depending on what time you're landing and traffic and everything else, whereas the train is just super fast. When you're going through the airport though, you might want to consider grabbing yourself a SIM card. So I've listed a couple on here, EE, Leica, and Free Mobile. So they're relatively cheap. Like I think for something like £20, you can get a month's worth of decent coverage and data. It will give you then a UK phone number, which also helps in terms of if you're planning on having a lot of local phone calls or a lot of giving that number out. So it is something to think about. Again, just compare it to your Aussie number. For those of you who have phones with multi-SIMs, you might want to look at that. Or if you can get an eSIM, that's another option as well. What else have I got? Oh, grab yourself some cash. So ideally before you make it to the hotel, make sure you've got some pounds sterling. I know we live in a digital age, and I know in Australia when we pay with cash, that the local cafe doesn't know what to do with it. But it is really handy for a couple of reasons. One is for tips, but more importantly, often 3 or 10 of you will go to lunch and they won't do a split bill. So having the cash to do a split bill amongst the group is just much easier. Or even, before an event,
someone does the coffee run and everyone chips in their pounds to chip in for their coffee, like just things like that. You'll find you need cash during the week. So I would encourage you to get some pounds when you land, or if not before. I know the hotel check-in officially doesn't open until 2. We've put in a request for rooms to be available before that. We can't guarantee it. If you are landing that day and you don't happen to get into your room before 2 o'clock and the mission briefing is kicking off at 2, don't worry. There will be time to get into your room and have a shower and refresh before the drinks later. And we won't think anything of you regardless of your BO at that point from 30 hours of travel. So it's all good. I think that's it. Myron, have I missed anything on what to do once they land?
No. Don't lose your passport in the cab as Don did last year on the first day. And if you do, keep your cab receipts, because that's how he tracked it back down and got it back.
Yes.
Yeah, just saying, so the 2 o'clock briefing is at the bar area around there. But we'll drop all of that in Slack. Just make sure you have connection, even if you just connect to the Wi-Fi in the hotel and be on standby for any updates.
Yeah. Any questions on where to be? No. If you, I'm hopefully stating the obvious, but if you are getting in market earlier, it is your responsibility to book, accommodation for the nights before the 11th. So that's on you. You're welcome to go direct to the same hotel or, look at any other option as well, obviously. But any accommodation requirement outside of the 11th to 17th, that's up to you to sort, book, arrange, pay for. Just on jet lag. So I know most of you are pretty experienced travelers, but just a couple of things from personal experience. But just one tip is to exercise before your flight. So the day of travel, get some good exercise in. It's good for the body, but also just with your body clock. Adjusting to the UK time zone before departure. So once you get on the plane, from that point, starting to sleep on the UK time zone cycle, staying hydrated. It's actually amazing how much impact good hydration has on the body. Avoiding high GI foods. So again, many of you would already know this, but if you start plunging into a heap of carbs, you'll get the energy spike and crash. So trying to avoid high GI foods particularly on the day you land in London. Like try and have a bit of a consistent energy diet through the day, so you avoid those crashes. Simple things like taking a shower once you land, getting sunlight on your skin. It's one way for your body to know that you're in daylight time zone. Avoiding a daytime nap when you land. So trying to push through to a normal, in time zone sleep cycle. Personally, I love to go for a run once I land. I find that that's a really good way to, like if I'm landing in daytime in the morning, for example, it's a good way to get my body across the fact that, hey, this is daytime and you need to be awake. I'm not sure champagne counts as hydration, but look, there's some water in there. And there'll be plenty of champagne during the week. As Myron said, melatonin, great for helping you sleep on the night. And I think the key bit is the next morning. So the morning after you land, get up, do some exercise and get some sunlight on your skin. So the latest neuroscience studies suggest that getting sunlight into your eyes and on your skin within the first 15 minutes of waking up is more likely to put you into that local time zone cycle. Anyone else have any tips that work for them? That's a good one. Moisturize. I like that. Cool. All right. Hopefully you all arrive energized and ready to go. When we're in market, we work on a buddy system, a 3-buddy system. And so what we ask you to do is to not pair up, trio up. So to find 2 others in the delegation so that you're a little buddy system of 3, and it's your job to check in with each other and make sure you are where you need to be. So to put context to this, every morning we meet in the hotel lobby for a bit of a briefing for the day, and then we move as a group to the various events. Now, when you get down the lobby and you see one of your buddies isn't there, it's your job to call them, to go bang on their door, do whatever is necessary to get their ass back downstairs, ready to go. But also if we lose people in transit, which does happen, so we try and move as a group, but inevitably as we move through London, some walk faster than others, some get stuck at a crossing, some miss the train and the tube, and before we know it, we're all over the city. So it's your job to keep track of each other, help each other find locations. We will do things like drop in the Slack channel where we're heading, what tube to take, that sort of thing. We often take a photo of the entrance, like the door of the building we're going in. I know it sounds crazy, but some of these buildings in London have, several entrances. It just helps you find it. But the buddy system really works. So between now and landing, if there are people in the group that are in a similar sector to you or space or stage, you might want to start connecting up and buddying up. But if not, we can do this on the first Sunday as well at the briefing. Now to chat about the schedule. So the schedule is, we meet on the Sunday. We have some time together just to ourselves for a bit of a briefing. We'll have a beverage. We'll get to know each other. We'll drop our swag and whatnot back in the room. And then we head over to a local bar where we'll be joined by something like 180 other Australians and New Zealanders, along with some guests. And we'll be there for a couple of hours. The UK government and tribe are putting some money on the bar. And this is a chance to meet all the other delegations. So really, go around the room, find who else is in town. And then at some point we will sneak away just as our group of 30, and we'll go have a very traditional English dinner, which means Indian, down in Brick Lane. So we'll have some curry, and it's very informal. It's just a chance for us to get to know each other. It won't be too late at night. We'll get to bed. Then Monday morning. So the framing of Monday is to really, we call it Why the UK. So we head over to the London Tech Week Centre. You'll get your passes. You'll get a chance to wander around the QE2 Centre because it is a 4-story or even 5-story building. We'll sit through the opening, like official welcome addresses. Then I'm going to steal you all away. So just our cohort will have a very quick 90-minute briefing on the UK, Europe, London, and regions. And this is just to give you some context. So that you're warmed up ahead of the week of, right, what is the opportunity for me in this market? Then we head to an awesome event that Kirsty has curated. Creating Unicorns is the title of it. But again, there'll be a bit more about the UK opportunity. There'll be a networking lunch. This will be with the broader ANZ delegation. Then there'll be a series of panels, including some Aussie founders talking about the real world experience of doing all of this. Then we divide up as a group. So those of you from Team Queensland will head over to Queensland House. You'll meet the trade and investment team. You'll get to see their co-working space, which is a space that you can all use during the week for meetings or just for working from, or even if you're staying on longer in market. Team SA will head over to the Australia Centre. You'll head into the South Australian offices. You'll get to meet the Agent General and their team and have a similar session. For our New South Wales buddy, I am aiming to get you in with the New South Wales team. The Agent General for New South Wales is awesome. They're all awesome. I shouldn't make it sound like one's better than the others. They're all great. Then we'll head off to the Chamber of Commerce drinks, which is, you'll expect 300 to 400 people to network with. And then what will probably happen after that is we'll likely splinter off just to our own little dinners. So we'll probably form groups with people we meet and head out to dinner. There are some other satellite events that day. So there is there's a London Tech Week anniversary party after that. Well, it's coinciding with the Chamber Drinks. It would be worth heading to that for some networking. We've got tickets for that. For the couple of you that are in the health space, there is a health panel that day at London Tech Week we might want to look at. And there's another drinks reception too, but we'll manage you through all that. Right now, Maren, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's nothing anyone needs to do for the Monday.
Correct.
Okay. Tuesday is a jam-packed day. So Tuesday is the Choose Your Own Adventure Day. We should call it the Choose Your Own Adventure Day, as in Tuesday. This day, Maren's already shared an email. If you're the majority of the group, you haven't responded yet, it's really important you do, because otherwise you could miss out on everything the entire day. So most of us will head to the GEP Masterclass, and this is run by the UK government. They have these, essentially like an entrepreneur in residence, these deal makers who are all experienced entrepreneurs and investors who will be talking about how to do business in the UK, how to set up there. So that'll be a great session. It is over at one of the Ashes grounds. So if you're a cricket lover, you'll get to not step on some hollow turf, but see some. Then we have, after that, a legal workshop, which again, the agenda for that is really rock solid. But there's all different events on that day. So it is Choose Your Own Adventure. So just make sure you fill out Maren's form. Does anyone have any questions on, and then, sorry, we end that day with our official mission dinner, and this is a mandatory one. So the dinner at the end of the day is at the Ivy. It's right by the Tower Bridge, like an amazing location. This will just be our delegation with a dozen guests from the UK ecosystem. It is a bit of an event. There's a bit of theatre to it, like just by location. But any questions about the Tuesday, or Maren, anything you need to add in terms of the Tuesday?
No, I think you covered it quite well. And I think the recommendations that we've given in the form are quite clear. There's just a few questions in the chat around the program. So we will be sending you that official program shortly, just finalizing all of that, and also updating it on the Notion page. So just bear with me on that. Barry, we hadn't planned to send calendar invites out, but once you have the program, you're welcome to schedule that in your calendars. And yeah, like I said, if there's any questions for the Tuesday, please let me know. I mean, some of the locations are closed, so you can, schedule several things on that Tuesday, and with travel times, you can attend multiple things. Others, like the GB Masterclass, a little bit further out. So for that one, you'll probably want to attend for the whole day, and then attend the legal workshop as well in the afternoon.
Just one comment on that is, don't register for everything. Like, just be respectful of the hosts. It is one of our big frustrations during London Tech Week. Last year, we hosted an event, had something like 130 people register, but only 50 actually show up. So just make sure you only register for what you are actually going to attend. Just a question there. Is everything in walking distance? No. So most things occur either around the QE2 centre or sort of London City itself, so the suburb city of London, or Shoreditch. So they're the three sort of main hotspots of events and activities. Pretty much everything is about a 30-minute commute. So whether you're walking or jumping the tube or whatever, everything's about 30 minutes. And we've allowed that time in the schedule, but obviously things do overlap. We will help as much as possible, but there is a lot of walking. So definitely have comfortable shoes. There's a lot of walking. I did have something else on Tuesday, but totally forgotten it. Oh, yes, just one other thing. So if any of you know the extended DISC profile, if you're a high C type personality, you like details, or if you're a fan of the PAIE model and you're a high A administrative details type person, I know you're going to be freaking out. I know you're going to want the TikTok of every minute of every day and where to be. Just trust. We'll give just-in-time information. We'll step you through everywhere. We'll drop all the details in Slack. So don't worry too much about the schedule, but we will get it out to you as soon as possible. Maren, were you going to add something else there?
No, I think you covered it all.
Okay. Wednesday is so the primary schedule for Wednesday is Tribe Delivered. So this is all of our content. In the morning, we have Bridgehead delivering a Finding Product Market Fit in the UK session. I know for some of you, you're turning over millions of dollars a year and you're thinking, why is Aaron getting me to sit in a Finding Product Market Fit session? But trust me, when you enter a new market, one of the worst things you can do is just assume that you've got product market fit and start going straight away. We've seen companies, even companies in our portfolio, spend several $1 million getting that completely wrong. So we have a session to help you refine product market fit in the UK. We then have a session by Don, my co-founder, talking about organizational structure for growth. So separate to legal structures, this is how do you actually set up your decision-making? How do you set up your leadership? How do you set up your team structure, organizational structure for growth and scale across markets? Then we have a bit of a break. And then we have a session where we have a rapid fire, maximum 5 minutes each from a lawyer, an accountant, tax advisor, visas, HR, PR, and then we break out into workshops. So this is where you get to have your burning questions specifically for your company answered. And we'll do a bit of a round robin. Then we break, and then in the afternoon, it's all about fundraising. So we're hosting a half-day session on raising capital in the UK. We've got some speakers talking about the investment landscape, the tax incentive programs, pathways to acquisition and IPO. And we also have a panel of angel investors and a panel of VCs. And those angel investors and VCs have experience on both sides of the ditch. So they've got experience investing in Australian and UK entities, and they can speak to the nuances of raising capital in the UK. That's always been voted our most valuable event of the week, so definitely not one to miss. And we actually will have to turn people away because we only have capacity for 100, and there's likely to be, well, based on everything so far, maybe 200 people that want to be in that one. But as part of our delegation, you'll be in. And then we have some drinks just following on from that, just for our delegation with some of the investors locally as well. There are other things on that day, so definitely take a look at the schedule. If there's other things that make more sense, Maren will keep sending them through. Thursday, we have a session in the morning about selling to UK corporates. So this is where we will hear from Aussie founders who are in the B2B space on their tips for selling to UK enterprise. We'll also hear from, and this is yet to be confirmed, but some corporates within those enterprises talking about their side of the table, common things they see startups get wrong when they're being sold to. Then there is an optional session here, which I highly recommend, which again is more around structuring for UK growth and structuring for market entry. Then there is a fair bit of time on the Thursday for you to have your own meetings. So the afternoon of Thursday, I really encourage you to use that time to set up your own meetings and to use connections to get meetings, or even consider hosting your own event. And then that evening, there is a networking event for the Asia Pacific delegations. Friday morning, we'll split up again. So the South Australian government will sit with the SA delegates for an hour, and the Queensland government will sit with the Queensland delegates for a couple of hours. And this is to help you bring all of the week together into action items to take forward. You've then got time for your own meetings. And then in the afternoon, we'll regroup and we'll run a bit of a session just to make sure everything from the week is converting into action items to take forward. My team will also be available if you do want to do. So what we find happens on the Friday, you've taken in a lot of information. Some of you will have really good clarity by that point. That clarity might be, hell no, the UK is not for me. The clarity might be, man, we got to get here next week, not next year. And for some of you, it might be just completely lost. So my team reserve that Friday. If you guys want to have one-on-ones, if you want to get, pitch feedback from us in terms of investment, if you want to go through your roadmap planning, our team's available that afternoon for some one-on-ones or group sessions, or just group therapy by that point. Then we'll likely carry on into some informal drinks I'm sure Don will get a karaoke machine cranking somewhere, which is a sight to behold. Bring your earmuffs. And then we finish Saturday morning with a final breakfast where we give out some awards for the week. This is designed to be very fun and a bit of a chance just to decompress. But that's it in terms of the broad schedule. Now, everything I've said is subject to change at 5 minutes notice. And Kirsty's probably laughing when I say that because it is like 6-dimensional Tetris making all this stuff work. So please bear with us if stuff changes. Just one other thing on the schedule is, as you can see, a lot of these events are run by third parties. We, as much as possible, are using, groups that are known to us. This is my 7th London Tech Week, so most of the schedule are people I've worked with before, but there will be some events that are complete duds. I'll share that, some of the previous delegations I've led, we've sat in a session and 5 minutes into a 3-hour session, we're in, the Slack channel trying to convince everyone to leave and just like how to leave and not make it look obvious that 30 people just stood up and left. Hopefully that won't happen this trip. But it is part of the experience as well, is understanding that just because they're a bigger ecosystem and more advanced doesn't mean that their content is necessarily any better than ours. So bear with us as we get through stuff. We'll absolutely adjust things on the fly as we need to. Mara, anything I've missed on the schedule side?
No, I think it's all there. And like we said, we'll be sharing with you this in a digital form for you. But yeah, keep in mind things do move around.
Yeah, so we'll be sharing a detailed doc. They'll also, certain events will have links to a detailed event brief that gives you the TikTok of that particular event and who's speaking. We have already shared in the Slack channel Kirsty's work pulling together the broader ANZ delegation schedule. So just understand that is the broader, total Australian New Zealand delegation schedule. Our schedule is slightly different, particularly at the end of the week. So, but yeah, we'll be sharing all of this with you just in time. In terms of what you should be doing right now, I know we talked about this last session. If I was you, I'd be looking at how do you get specific connection and introduction lists. I know most of you have already done that work. You've been great pulling that together for the Google Sheet. Definitely just keep looking at Eventbrite, keep looking at, Twitter handles around London Tech Week, keep looking at the London Tech Week site for all sorts of satellite events or other events, particularly for your sector. So Maren and Kirsty will take care of the broader, the big stuff that's relevant to everyone. But if you're in health tech, ed tech, whatever it is, just keep an eye out for specific events, do your own hunting. And two last points on this one though. One is, as I said in the last session, consider hosting your own event. I've really seen that done effectively. So consider hosting your own event with a curated target audience that you're trying to reach. And second is, for those of you, I think there's 4 of you bringing co-founders, I'd encourage you to split up during the week. So something like the Choose Your Own Adventure Day, consider splitting up. So one founder at one event, one founder at the other. You'll just get much more out of the week. Cool. Yes, Mara?
To the fringe events. Last year, London Tech Week was quite good publishing a fringe event schedule online. I haven't seen that come through yet. So yeah, if you're wondering why we sort of drip dropping things into Slack, that's the reason why. We often have to really search for events and find them and go hunting and digging for them. So if you do find an event yourself, please also share that in Slack because it might be just as valuable for others in the cohort.
Yeah. Cool. So we're halfway through. That is logistics covered, schedule covered. Now we're going to talk about some new stuff. So if you need to get up and, I don't know, do a dance, get blood flow, whatever, do that. Because next I'm going to talk about cultural nuances. So if everyone would like to take a 2-minute break, you want to stand up, bathroom break, water break, coffee break, go do that and we'll come back. Let's kick off at 5 past.
Awesome. If we can all come back in, if you can hear me.
Yep, all good.
All good. Awesome. Maren, there's just a question there from Stuart around the register in the chat window. Cool. Well, I'm going to assume most people are back. I can see some empty chairs, but we'll kick off into this next bit.
Yes, so Stuart, in regards to the legal event, so by ticking the checkbox in the form, I will then register you for that. So that's all you need to do to attend the legal event called Harnessing Unicorns. I'll then share that information with Kirsty, who's organising that event. But yes, for the GP event, you will have to register yourself. So everywhere where you have to register yourself and take action, I've provided a registration link in the form. Otherwise, the checkbox says that by ticking this box, I will then register you for that event. Does that clarify it enough? Silence is always a yes in Zoom, so I'll take that as a yes.
Cool. I'll just share my screen again. So next, we're going to talk about just cultural nuances, UK versus Australia. I appreciate a lot of you have spent time in market. But yes, so there's a lot that unites us. We have a lot in common. Yes, we do elect some pretty terrible prime ministers, but just some things to be aware of. So number one, yes, the UK is more formal than Australia. We're quite laid back. Particularly, I've lived on the Gold Coast for 9 years, so please don't be offended when I say the following. But, Goldie, you can rock up to a business meeting in your board shorts carrying your surfboard. We tend to be very relaxed. UK is definitely more formal than that. So startup ecosystem, yes, more relaxed than say more traditional sectors, but particularly when you're meeting corporates, particularly when you're meeting government officials, you'll notice it in the events. You'll notice that speeches are read. So just be prepared for that. As you're trying to arrange meetings, you'll notice that the Brits are also less receptive to just cold meeting requests. As much as possible, try to use warm intros, warm connection requests, and give as much time as possible, like notice in advance. British people really do value their punctuality, so it is an offence to be late. Also, in terms of if meetings run overtime, so be punctual not just in arrival, but also in departure. The other person's not going to tell you, "Hey, we're over time. I need that." They'll be very polite. But meanwhile, they're probably internally fuming. So just end things on time. Be very respectful of time. Just one other thing on that, though, is even the Brits are not as laid back in terms of follow-ups and that as we are. So I think of all the markets I've been in, Aussies are probably the worst at following up. We tend to be really relaxed. It's like we send an email for an outbound sale, and if they don't get back to us, it's like, they're obviously not interested. But also just in terms of arranging meetings and everything. So in the US, for those of you who have experience there, you'd know that when someone says, let's catch up for a meeting, they mean that day or the next day. In Australia, we mean like in 3 months' time after the school holidays are done. So understand the UK, it is a bit between the two, but you have to respond to emails in a timely fashion. You have to get back to people quickly. You have to just respond fast and follow up. So it's quite interesting, the perspective of others from other markets when they hear Aussies. It's like, wow, he sent me an email but never followed up afterwards. They mustn't be that interested in my business. So just be aware of those things. The other key one is in language. So the Brits are very polite, and they're understated, and they often say the opposite of what they mean. So if you hear someone say, I'll bear that in mind, what they're really saying is, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and I'm not going to listen to that at all. So just being aware of these little cultural nuances, and I know I'm exaggerating here, but
just be aware that it is actually really hard to know if a Brit is telling you no. It is actually more difficult than Australia. You just get told, no, mate, that's fucked. So just be aware of that. The job then is to get yourself to a fast yes or a very fast and clear no. Yeah, that's a good one, Barry. What else have I got here? Oh, yeah, so they have a default skepticism. So, and look, I should have put a caveat on all this, as I'm giving the Brits a bit of a hard time. I am actually a British citizen. Both my parents and my pedigree is British. So I'm taking this from my own family experience, which probably isn't a great sample set, but they do tend to be default skeptics. A couple of other key ones though. So one is they're not used to receiving gifts. It can be seen as in a business context. There are often company policies are like, we don't receive gifts. You might send a gift and get no thanks back because the challenge is they might perceive it as now they have this obligation because there's a default skepticism, right? So why am I being sent this gift can come up. We experienced this ourselves, like post our mission last year, we sent a whole heap of gifts over to speakers and everyone. And I think I got back one thank you. So gift giving is not usual etiquette. As you can see by Boris Johnson's face in this photo, you can see how impressed he is with old mate's gift. A couple of other things, UK corporates are much more sophisticated in understanding technology and startups and innovation than most Australian corporates. And I know that might sound harsh, but if any of you are trying to sell to Aussie corporates, you'll find that the exec you're speaking to doesn't understand tech very well, like not as in deep tech, and doesn't have much startup empathy. Whereas in the UK, you'll find you can have conversations much faster. So when you meet with someone at Barclays Bank around your fintech, you don't have to explain stuff to them. They already get it. You can go straight to, paragraph 6, 7, or 8 of the equivalent conversation you'd be having in Australia. So what that means is when you're pitching and communicating, you can pitch and communicate at a much higher level, like as in you don't have to explain the fundamentals, you can go deeper into things. The last point. So one thing it'll become very clear on the opening Monday, particularly in that first session we're delivering, is just how tiny and insignificant Australia is. I know we all like to think that it's a great place to do business, and it is, but in terms of market sizing, it's just tiny. So when you're over in the UK and you're speaking about your number of users or clients, just understand for them there's orders of magnitudes of difference. And so, our market seems tiny in comparison. So just being aware of that is important in how you frame what you're doing and the stage that you're at. This will come up more during the week, and we'll have lots of opportunities to talk about things as we go through the week. Like there's 5 of my team coming over. We'll have lots of chance to chat to you all about all this stuff. Any questions, or is there anything anyone wants to add? Kirsty, I'd be curious to hear your perspective on this one, but any perspectives anyone else wants to add as well? Kirsty, maybe you first.
Yeah, I was just going to say you've really sort of hit the nail on the head with a lot of that, and I think particularly the point that I want to mention is what you mentioned first. I guess 2 of them. Absolutely, punctuality is really, really important. But then also, that less receptive to cold meeting requests. It really is, a relationship market. So being able to get either someone to introduce you into that contact, or, potentially if you are meeting them at London Tech Week and then following up with them at a later point, I think that's a pretty salient point. But other than that, I agree. I agree with most of them. And if you do need a bit of a translation point about particular British phrases that they say in meetings and whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, please let us know.
Yeah, and that one on punctuality. So one of the things that we insist on during the week is when we have an event starting at 8 a.m. or we tell you this event starts at 1, don't do the typical, especially Queenslander approach to a meeting. Oh, if it's scheduled to start at 1, they won't actually start talking to 1:15. I'm going to get there like 1:20, grab myself a coffee. No, do not do that. In fact, we'll actually kick you out and not let you in. And it's because we have to respect not only our hosts who've given up their time,
but also our reputation, but also this exact element of the UK culture, which is they value time and you have to be punctual or it's disrespectful. So what that means is, as you're making your way to a venue and you think, oh, I've got 10 minutes to grab a coffee. If you've got 10 minutes before the meeting, no, you should be there already. So we're going to emphasize it a lot during the week. You have to be punctual and understand that, you can look up on Google Maps or Citymapper and it says, oh, it's only 15 minutes by the tube. All sorts of stuff can happen. The tube can be busy and you can't get on the next 3 trains or whatever. You get lost coming out of the wrong exit of the tube station and end up having to walk for an extra 15 minutes. So give yourself plenty of time to be on time, if not early. Just noticing the chat window here too. So polite way to introduce yourself. Yep, we can definitely talk about that. Sarcasm. Yeah, that example of the Brazil is so true. So, yeah, I met a founder here who had a home subscription service for dog treats, and they've been going for 3 years and had like a couple of thousand subscribers. I landed in the US and there was a Californian-based startup that had doing the exact same thing, had been going for 3 months, and all they'd done is one billboard advert, and they had a couple of 100,000 subscribers already. So it is just a totally different ball game, the metrics. And look, we can definitely cover that more during the session, during the week. Yes, do you want to drink tea? Absolutely. Are you all right? They're not actually. So this took me a while. I remember one of my trips over the UK when I was young, and I kept getting asked, are you all right? And I was like, what is wrong? Like, is my fly undone? Why do you keep asking me this question? Like, what am I presenting where I look like I'm in need of assistance? But it's just a greeting, so you'll get used to that. Yes, very true. Yeah, that's great. So this is awesome. Really good. Yeah, that's great. So if you guys want to keep those coming, they're really valuable. On the introducing yourself, yeah, so ideally you have a warm introduction and someone else introduces you. That's a great way. Like if you can achieve that, that's a big tick box for the Brits. And what that also means is you can do that for each other if you have a connection. But independent of that, just say, state your name, say the company you're from, and give the very quick intro of what you're doing. And I'll drop that. Yeah, it's perfect timing because next we're going to talk about a bit of pitch practice. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Before we start talking about pitching though, any questions on the mission? Any questions on? So sorry, there are a couple of other things just on the UK, which I should have had in the briefing. So I've taken delegations to lots of countries. We've been through Israel literally the day after a significant terrorist attack. And I actually, the place where I'm actually always two places I'm most concerned about taking delegations, and in terms of just general crime, and that is, one is actually London. And the second is parts of San Francisco, so Silicon Valley. Just one thing to be aware of. So almost every trip to the UK, someone loses something like a laptop or a passport or some key thing. Often it's just their own stupidity, but there are simple things like, it is such a tourist mecca that particularly in areas around the London Eye and Big Ben, which is where the QE2 Centre is for London Tech Week, there's a lot of pickpockets. There's a lot of people, if you're wearing a backpack, for example, and you stopped at the side of a road to cross a street, just be aware of the zippers in your backpack. That can be very easily undone. Things can be taken without you realizing. Pockets can be picked. In London as well, there's been some incidents of, guys on scooters just literally coming down the street and grabbing handbags off people or backpacks off people. So just be really aware. By traveling anywhere, just be really aware. Be aware of who's around you. Things like being on a packed tube where we're squashed in like sardines at peak hour. Just be aware of pickpockets, those sort of things. So
hopefully that is stating the obvious, but just reaffirming that. There is just an elevated threat risk in the UK at the moment. So we keep an eye on this. It's not a concern. Like I'm definitely not concerned. I've traveled in many other countries with far higher risk. But it is always that risk that there could be an incident while we're in the UK. We'll talk about this more on the Sunday. If any of you are concerned, like reach out. All the advice we've had from everyone, there's nothing to be concerned about. So I'm not particularly concerned. But it is that reminder. The other thing I'd say is, some of the nights we are finishing late. So we might be having a late dinner or a networking event. Just be mindful of your consumption of alcohol, both from a professional sense, but also just in terms of your own safety getting home. Coming home, back to the hotel, again, use the buddy system. Let your buddies know, hey, I'm heading back to the hotel. Travel, just simple things like travel in pairs, if you're going to walk back to the hotel late at night, go in pairs. Share, cabs are pretty safe, but just use common sense and as much as possible, look out for each other. That's a good point, Ashby. Yeah, Kirsty, that's a really good point. Yeah, so just be aware of your safety. We will drop reminders. Yeah, like little thing. I know in Australia, you can often sit in a cafe working on your laptop and you leave your laptop at the table to go up to order a coffee and come back 10 minutes later. Just stuff like that. Don't do that in the UK. Yeah. The other thing that can happen is credit cards can get skimmed. So for me, I've never had it happen in the UK, but every time I go to San Francisco, my credit card gets skimmed and I end up getting it blocked. My credit card provider is very good, but for me, I do try and use an actual credit card rather than a debit card for that reason, because a credit card actually underwrites your risk. There's a really good talk. The guy who is the, Catch Me If You Can, the guy who is actually the true life Catch Me If You Can guy actually gives a talk. If you Google it or go on YouTube, he gives a talk at Google to Google staff about why he never has a debit card and only uses a credit card. It's really interesting, total left field conversation, but just little things to be aware of. Cool. Any questions? Any other questions before we move on? Okay. So for the next 30 or so minutes, I think it's good for us to start refining our elevator pitches, because you're going to be delivering your little 3-sentence pitch hundreds of times during the week. The purpose of this, what we're talking about here is, not an investment pitch. It's not a sales pitch. This is just when you're networking. So a lot of you would already have this down pat, and I know I'm probably, you've already drunk the Kool-Aid. You've already got your pitch sorted, but just some quick framing. So one thing is, in the Slack channel, you would notice that there is a, let me make sure I've got this right. There is a pitch channel. Yes, pitches and one-liners channel in the Slack channel. This is where you can record your pitch and drop it in there. You would have noticed that someone already did. You would see stuff from previous cohorts, but Stuart, you did, and then Don chimed in. So Don is exceptionally good at pulling these apart. Don actually did Don Miller's consulting framework, paid a fair bit to get the training to do it Don Miller style. If you don't know who Don Miller is, he wrote Story Brand or Brand Story, whichever one it is. But the basic premise I like in an elevator pitch or a quick pitch is either the Gaddy pitch or the Story Brand pitch. It's very simple. 3-sentence structure is one I like, which is, how, describe the problem, or what we do, here's the solution. In fact, some sort of credibility point. So if it was Uber, so imagine the world before Uber. I think for most of us, we've got grey hair where we do remember that. But how it's really hard to get a taxi when you want one, where you want one, especially during peak times. Well, what we do is enable anyone with a car to connect with anyone who needs a lift through a real-time secure app that improves safety and reduces costs. In fact, now your in fact could be a value prop. In fact, we don't just help more people get home safer, faster, but we actually help more drivers get an extra revenue stream.
or your fact could be a credibility point. Like in fact, we've already had over 1 million riders complete 5 million trips or something like that. So really simple, you know how, a relatable problem. Now, if your you know how is, you know how mine walls collapse in underground coal mines, like the person you're talking to probably has no freaking clue about that. So instead of you know how, it might be in underground coal mines, the biggest cause of loss of life is blah. And it's like, oh, wow, shit, I didn't know that. So have some sort of context. Now, remember with any pitch, there has to be a purpose to it. So what is your goal from a pitch? So when you're networking, sorry, now it's the garbage trucks going past my place. But when you're networking, the goal is to basically very quickly be able to assess if the person you're speaking to either has value to you, or you have value to them, or someone in their network does. And I know that sounds very transactional, but in a week where you're meeting hundreds of people, you've got to get through and get networking. So if you think of a goal of a pitch to convey quickly what you do, understand what the other person does and see if there's value, but also to help them know how to help you. So always being prepared with what it is you're looking for that's quite specific. Particularly when you go to ecosystems like Boulder in Colorado, it's very common for the person you meet to lead with the question of, how can I help? And don't just go, oh, we're looking for general blah, blah, blah. No, be very specific. So with all of that in mind, would anyone like to practice their pitch? Give a quick elevator pitch. This is where everyone turns their webcams off and says they have another meeting to get to.
I'm happy to go first, but I'll just heavily caveat it that we're redoing it, or I'm redoing it specifically for London, just because it's a bit of a different client segment, but
awesome.
Just get it out of the way. So tackling issues of poor connectivity, a lack of digital literacy, and a lack of trust. At AgUnity, we've developed a smartphone and super app-based solution for the world's agricultural communities, a simple mobile product restoring trust and connecting businesses to smallholder farmers with the services they need.
So what would be, if you had to summarize the problem in like how the problem manifests, what's the problem?
That the majority of any business or organization looking to work with smallholder farmers in emerging markets doesn't have any effective tool to do so. So if I want to sell farmers a machete or some fertilizer, it's really, really hard for me to do so. If I want to do an education program, I have no real way to connect with them because of the lack of technical infrastructure.
Okay. And so what sort of, this is to help me understand, what sort of companies are selling to those farmers?
Yeah, so one of our clients is Fairtrade International, and there's Fairtrade in the UK that we've been connected with, but they effectively try and, they're, I don't know, for those that aren't aware, you'll see their certification on tea and coffee in the supermarket. And they basically sell that certification to companies who are retailing these products. And their goal is about giving farmers a living wage. But what they don't have is technology to do that effectively. So it takes 18 months to get data from the field into a report that they give to their clients.
Okay. Yeah, so for me, I'm probably still not 100% clear on exactly what you're doing. And who, so I have a lot of calories. So there's this concept from Don Miller, which is the mental calories. So every time you use a word in your pitch or you say something, my head is automatically painting another reality. So it fills in the ... And I found myself just in the first part where you talked about, could you, that opening little bit, like the first 10 words, could you say that again?
Tackling issues of poor connectivity, a lack of digital literacy, and a lack of trust.
Yeah, so as you said those things at the start, my head went, this is where, just to give you an idea of what went through my head, all the calories I was burning. It's like, oh, you're competing to Starlink. Oh, no, you're a fintech. Oh, you're solving credibility in the banking chain. So I'm already trying to go, what? And look, that could be a quirk of and an insight into my messed up head. But sometimes it's good just to lead. We're an ag tech company doing, so even if it's just a contextual anchor, and so it reduces the other calories that I'm about to burn in my head. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so I did look a bit at at what you're doing. I really do like it. I think there's, sorry, this is an aside for everyone else, but I think there's a few meetings we should set up for you with Barclays and a few others. I don't know if that's of interest, but Barclays are, really have a really good connection with the ecosystem. And I think NatWest could be another one we might get you in front of as well.
Definitely. And appreciate the calories and the contextual anchor, and I'll post in the updated one.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and I should say, one thing you'll find about the entire tribe team is we're pretty direct. One of our internal cultural statements that we would never say publicly is we're not here to fuck spiders. And it means that, you know, we can be a bit blunt at times, but everything is shared with love, and we've all been in your seat. Like every single one of us has been a founder. We know the trough of fuckery that founder life is. And so it all comes from that point of view of not wanting others to suffer like we did. So cool. Anyone else like to go next? Thanks, Angus, for going first. That's awesome.
I'm happy to jump in.
Yeah.
Okay, clinicians in every sector are under stress to see more people in less time. We use mobile virtual reality to generate accurate mobility reports at the same time, effort and cost for both clinician and individual. Automating reporting means less stress on everyone in the allied health industry. Pre and post work assessment, permanent injury assessment, and long-term rehabilitation are so much more easier to monitor with automated reporting. This allows independence, dignity, and choice, and people can contribute so much more to society when they're happy and healthy.
Cool. I love the so the opening was good. I think I'd cut it to about half, like so probably the second half, like in a verbal conversation you wouldn't need. And that's just one thing for everyone is you don't have to paint the entire picture. Like if you introduce it enough, if someone's interested, they'll ask the next question. And also you'll get a very quick body language read of, okay, no, this person's looking away. They're not even listening to what I'm saying. Like I'm going to move on. But could you repeat those first two sentences? Can you say them again?
Our clinicians in every sector are under stress to see more people in less time.
And what type is this? Could you just detail clinicians a bit more? Like what
So we work particularly with occupational therapists in rehabilitation, but the tool is also used in pre and work mobility assessment. Okay.
Yeah. So I liked it. I think maybe tightening up that first little bit so I get straight away the specific clinician, because again, otherwise my brain is going out to like, is this mental health? Is this physio? Is this what? So maybe I don't know exactly how to do it, but maybe just tighten up that first little bit so it's really clear the exact type, and then I have this nice visual. But the rest was good. Yeah, I like what you're doing. Oh, I like what you're all doing. Hence, you know, while you're all on the mission. But yeah.
All right, thank you.
Tighten it up a bit.
I will look into it. I guess so we obviously have our colloquial casual conversations with people we bump into, and then are there going to be any sessions where we do like a speed dating style, like here's a group of people, do like a session like that?
Yes and no. So sure, one way I'd look at it is almost everything the whole week is kind of speed dating. So even a networking event with 400 people, you are kind of speed dating. Like if you treat it that way, you are, which I think is healthy. Then there are a couple of events like the one that we're pulling together at the moment with the corporate panel, for example. There will hopefully be a bit of a chance for you to chat to them. Yeah, look, not like a round table, you know, Dragon's Den type pitch thing, not like that. I'm trying to think what else might be in the schedule that might be a bit more like that.
So the kind of dinner parties and things will be everyone gets to kind of chit chat with the whole group, but then I guess once you're sitting down next to someone, that'll be your team for the most of the evening, I guess.
No, so I just to frustrate the hell out of everyone, I make everyone stand up and change at each course. So
okay, that's good. I think that's a good idea.
The dinner we have, you'll all move tables at different points.
There is also an event on the Tuesday that you can choose from. That's from London Tech Week. It's an international global tech roundtable event running from 2:30 till about 5 o'clock, plus some networking afterwards. So that's a roundtable style session where, again, it's not organized by us, but the way it was described is that there is a connection of corporates in the room and other companies too. So there might be an opportunity to do some speed dating there as well.
Yeah, I'm going to be at the health tech event, I think exactly during that time.
You might be able to drop in and out because the health tech finishes at 1:30 and that roundtable doesn't start until I think 2:30 is when the speeches kick off, but the actual roundtable doesn't start until 4, if I'm not mistaken. So,
Okay, that could work out.
yeah, I've in that form that I shared, and I can drop that in the Slack again, I've put the exact times of when speeches start and roundtables begin. So yeah, have a look at that. That could be quite interesting as well.
Okay, thanks.
Cameron had his hand up first, and then Jimmy, I think you were next. Oh, I can't hear Cam. No, it's like you're maybe the wrong microphone's connected.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, can hear now.
Okay, brilliant. So as I said, I've basically just thrown my old one out the window, and I've just had to work with the framework that you presented because I think it makes a lot more sense than what I had before. So one of the biggest reasons that salespeople lose sales is failing to follow up or reconnect with past prospects effectively. We're augmenting call-based sales outreach and follow-ups by leveraging AI to clone salespeople's voices to execute voicemail broadcasts on their behalf. In fact, we've been able to increase sales threefold and reduce the salesperson's time calling to achieve a sale by 60% on average.
I like it. I think you could tighten up a bit. So I'm gonna have a crack. I'm gonna have
that was 3 minutes of work. I've already plugged it into ChatGPT to help me out.
I wonder if ChatGPT, yeah, I haven't tried it actually, asking it to do a Gaddy pitch. But yeah, like I think, you know how most sales fall over just due to lack of follow-up. We have an AI-driven app that does follow-up using your actual salespeople's voice or something like that. Like just, and look, I don't even know if that's actually what you're doing. That's my interpretation of what you're doing. But
yeah, well, it's that, but I think what most people usually get stuck on is that they think that we clone someone's voice and then we have the conversation for them, but we're not trying to automate the conversation. We're trying to augment it. We're trying to do the outreach on their behalf that when the person calls back, it goes back to the salesperson to have that conversation. So rather than sitting back and 70% of their calls on average will go to voicemail, we can send, and they'll do maybe 50 calls in a day. We can do 500 calls, we can do 1,000 calls, and almost the same ratio on average, 15 to 20% will call them back. So obviously it's a much better use of their time and it's a lot more effective.
Yeah. So I would actually leave the other person hanging with that question at the end of your quick intro. So
okay,
you do your quick pitch and I'm going to come back and go, oh, are you doing blah, blah? And you go, no, really good question, what we're doing. Because like leaving a little bit of intrigue for engagement rather than trying to answer all their questions. And yeah, it's kind of like, I want to say kind of like dating. Like you kind of deliberately leave stuff out to build intrigue. And then if you're interested,
mysterious. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. It becomes a filter, right? Like if they don't ask that question, it means they probably don't have this problem, they don't get it. But if they're like, are you telling me with my sales team, you immediately get a data point from them. And so it becomes validation of, do I continue this conversation or do I give up?
Yeah. And I'm actually taking it a step further than that based on the last conversation. I've quickly whipped up not right now, I've been working on it for since yesterday, a website. So I'll have a business card with a QR code that goes to a website that they can basically join our wait list, and it generates them an example using my voice and their company details that they put into that list. And then I'm going to send them a follow-up email with that voicemail attached. And what I'm hoping is that it has somewhat of a bit of a viral effect on it. where it not only reminds them who I am, what we do, gives them my information, but it also reminds me. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that works.
Yeah, awesome. No, very cool. Okay,
Aaron.
Jimmy, you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah, and same boat as Cam. I love that Getty method, so mine's out the window and here's my first pass at that new framework.
Good.
So you know how organisations are struggling to manage culture, particularly coming out of COVID and with a distributed workforce. So we're an app that plugs into Microsoft Teams, which is all focused around using the power of ChatGPT to enable more teams to come together around social and sustainability initiatives. The benefit for the organisation is actually then we become this capture mechanism for them to be able to frame their sustainability narrative and be able to use that to position themselves as an employer of choice, attract talent, and for any of the reporting that they might need to do.
Okay. So would it be fair to say you have an AI solution to solving organizational culture?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's, I think, so you could have a super short form introduction, which is something like that. Like we have an AI solution for solving organizational culture. Yeah. And if they're interested in that or understand or have, you know, they'll come back and go, how the hell are you doing that? How can AI solve? And you go, well, here's what we're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like it. I think, you know, knowing a bit of your backstory and what you're doing. Yeah, I think test. I mean, obviously, you just created it, so test it out on a couple of years.
I think the real thing I love about the Getty method, which I typically struggled with in the past, was the forming of the problem to start with. Like I think typically a lot of us fall into the trap of going straight into solution mode, having not actually helped frame why the solution is needed. So I think that whole how, I think that's an important sort of part of the story for that. So that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and you know, on the story brand approach, which I'm a huge advocate of, it is realizing that the customer doesn't care. The customer doesn't care about you. Like, you know, you see so many company websites and it's all about the company, and you know, it's a photo of their office building. It's like, no one gives a shit what building you're in. Like, speak to the pain point of the customer. Like, and you build that empathy and rapport where it's like, fuck, this guy understands my problem. Yeah. You tell me you can solve that. Like, so yeah, understanding that we're not the hero, we're the Yoda. The customer is the hero. It's our job to help them achieve what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah,
yeah, cool. Now I got to confess, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Is it Alice?
Yes, Aaron, it's Alice. Hi, everybody. So I have a couple for you, having had that conversation that you just had. So I've just created a new one for us, which is ValAI. We have an AI solution to help define a residential assets, climate insurance and financial risk profile. And the longer one is, hi, I'm Alice Todd. I'm the co-founder of ValAI. Valuation AI is a climate property tech company. So residential homes are responsible for around 21% of energy-related carbon emissions globally. We provide green risk data insights to the financial, insurance and property sector via our smart, rapid and automated platform. We help our clients measure, manage and de-risk their residential assets. And across the UK, green home reports, they're required at the time of rent and at sale, but they're inaccurate. The data can be up to 10 years old. So our solution provides a home efficiency report with real-time data to fast-track product origination and drive energy efficiency data in market value decision-making. With the cost of living pressures being tight, our North Star is to ensure no existing home is being left behind in our global transition to net zero.
Yeah, so the second one is obviously a bit formal. It'd be good if you get a chance on a microphone on a stage in front of someone, which can happen during the week. Just repeat the first one though, the conversational one.
Yeah, so I said we have an AI solution to help define a residential assets, climate, insurance and financial risk profile.
Okay, so what does that mean? So if I'm if I'm a homeowner, what does it do for me?
Yeah, so if you're a homeowner, with our data, we can help you secure insurance and finance that is based on your climate risk profile.
Yep.
We also provide you with the report you need to make sound decisions on an asset you might be purchasing or you might be selling.
Right. So this is showing my naivety. Is this around climate change impact or just general climate measures?
This is to do with the climate risk that is built into any premiums that you have on your finance for a property or your insurability of that property. So this is B2B. So if you're an insurer, bank, etc., right now and moving into the future, any premiums that you pay will now have a climate-related premium built into them. So the more we can empower the banks and insurers to enforce that premium on sound data, and the more we can educate consumers on being aware of what they can do to retrofit or uplift their property, the more it will not only decarbonise the economy, but it will also free up cash flow for those consumers because you'll be getting a better deal.
Awesome. So my thoughts, and again, you apply it to the context of your startup, but my thoughts are during the week, well, actually, this is probably a comment for everyone. We're much more likely to be on the B2B side of our business than the B2C side. So I think that bit you articulate about the insurers, because it's quite likely you'll meet insurers and obviously a lot of banks and finances during the week. I think saying that bit. So for me, if the pitch was one of the biggest risks to underwriting an insurance is the climate risk, we reduce that by blah, 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 blah. So if I am in that space, I go, oh, fuck yeah, that's like, how do we solve that? And if I'm not in that space, I get it and go, oh, yes, that makes sense to me. I'm going to introduce you to John. I don't know if that fits for what you're doing, but that's my gut feel of that bit you talked about just then for me was really powerful in my understanding of what you're doing.
Great. Thank you.
Converlens, is that Tom?
G'day, yeah, sorry, no, it's also got the company name on there. Sorry, Aaron. Yeah, it's Tom. Hey, guys. All right, I rewrote this just then, so bear with me. But Converlens is an AI data platform that specializes in making sense of the combination of qualitative and quantitative data. Increasingly, people expect their voice to be heard in areas they care about and demanding more engagement from organizations. Rich insights exist within qualitative data, but due to its unstructured nature, it's very time-consuming to analyze. Converlens helps you make sense of the rich data from your stakeholders and community quicker and easier.
Okay. Do you know Capiche?
Capiche? No, I don't know Capiche.
Queensland, I think Brisbane-based startup. Yeah, using, I think doing something similar. I was just, if you're aware of them, I was trying to just compare the two to understand. Okay, so you make sense of subjective, what's the word I'm looking for? Not unformatted, but you make sense of all that other data that isn't mathematically measured.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, awesome. Yeah, so I would probably, as you were saying it, again, my head was sort of, the calories were going towards, okay, there's about 6 things that could fit into this box. Which one are you? So if you can give a more like straight up front statement, like maybe in your case, it's actually saying, and again, this is my understanding of what you're doing, so it could be completely wrong. We use whether it's NLP or machine learning, whatever, to draw meaningful insights from unstructured data.
Yep.
We do that for. So then straight away, I've got the context. Okay. I get what you do. What's your application of it?
Yep.
Yeah. So one thing, just generically, and this isn't a comment on your pitch, but you know, often you read the back of a van or something, and it's all about what they do, and you read it and go, I have no freaking clue what they do. You read someone's vision and mission statement. It's like, I have no clue what this company does. Like you want to try and avoid, you know, those superlatives or the generic type business lingo and give a really specific context straight away. So if you think of it like, you know, when someone's making a sculpture out of a tree trunk and they start with the chainsaw and then they get down to, you know, chisels and then they get down to fine sandpaper. Your job at the start is get a big chainsaw and let's chop off all the 60,000 things that this could be and get it really clear. So I'm into the sandpaper straight away. And so if you can, yeah, maybe it's the product, leading with the product piece first with you. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I think sometimes the AI data platform as well kind of does do that calorie consumer, because it's so broad, it's sort of so probably unhelpful in this point necessarily. Getting specific on the type of technology we're using, I think, and how that's applied is good advice.
Yeah, and look, it's a bugbear of mine. Like, everyone says they're using AI for everything right now, and I really question, is it actually AI? Like, it's like people saying we use blockchain, and it's like, why? A spreadsheet can do that. So I think I care less about the technology you're using. I care more about the problem you're solving. So I think if you can convey, and again, this will be contextual to who you're speaking to, but if people want to know how are you doing that, they'll ask that follow-up question.
Yep.
It's like, oh, so are you using AI, or what are you doing? And so again, trying to just get convey very quickly, I'm doing this, to gauge if the other person's interested. If they are, they'll ask questions.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Aaron. That's great.
Alice, just going back. So are you, do you categorize yourself as climate tech or property tech? Like what? Or
yeah, so
tech?
We sit in property and climate tech. So our vision mission is about the decarbonising of the economy. So our internal impact metrics are about how many tonnes of CO2 we can abate.
Right.
But then within the property sector, so finance and insurance industry see us as a property tech because we purely focus on residential assets.
Right. Just something that comes to mind, and this is just off the top of my head, but as I was thinking about it more, I think you've got two elements at play, right? Like, so in my head, and this could be totally wrong, but on my limited understanding, you're an insurance tech play because you're helping insurance companies do X, Y, Z. But then you're also this climate tech that has this outcome here. And I think my gut feel is contextualizing who you're speaking to is in what you present yourself as. So if you are speaking to an insurer or a financer or fintech sector, we're insurance tech, we're doing this. But in terms of, I think a few of the reports I've tagged you on and shared, like there's a lot of support for climate tech, energy, all these things. And I think when you any government context, like absolutely go for that. But yeah, anyway, it's just a question. I was just thinking about it more after your pitch.
Yeah, certainly. We tend to find investors, we talk climate because it's impact metrics that they may be interested in investing in. Whereas when we're talking enterprise customers, we are whatever market segment they are. Yep. Insure tech, prop tech, finance tech, loan origination tech, wherever we need to be.
Yeah, it's kind of like Musk, like love him or hate him, SpaceX. Well, let's look at Tesla. So the vision of Tesla is a world that doesn't rely on fossil fuel, but that's not how Tesla markets itself, right? Like they're the best electric vehicle. So again, we might have this aspirational ESG, whatever it is, motivation, and that's our mission statement. But it turns out we're solving this problem for insurance companies, and it does this, but the market doesn't care about that bit, so they care about this bit. So it is just adjusting those things. But yeah, cool. Next in my Zoom sequence of hand raising. Now, is it Helena or Helena?
Good morning, it's Helena.
Helena. Awesome, Helena. Great to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you too. Okay, well, I've created a little bit of a gaddy pitch, if you're ready.
Yep.
So you know how professional service industry workers like accountants, lawyers and doctors need to be continuously licensed? Well, they hate it because it's compulsory, unpaid, and needs to be completed within strict deadlines. So what we've done is automated the process for them into a super simple to use clickable app. In fact, by using our app ensures they stay compliant, well ahead of deadlines, and saves their companies and organisations huge amounts of time, costs, penalties, and stress.
That was awesome. Like yeah, no, that was really good. So the problem piece, like just that simple line, and they don't, what was it? And they don't like it, or something as simple as that.
Well, they hate it.
They hate it. Like, I love that. You bring an emotional measurement or an emotional element into it, and then you articulated why they hate it. No problem. Thanks, Jack. Yeah, so I think I actually really like that. To me, it was clear.
Oh, great.
Here's who.
You understood it okay?
yeah, here's the problem they have, and here's what we do.
Yeah.
You may want to, so like with anything, you know, I can't remember who had the expression, sorry for the long email, I didn't have time to write a short one. Like it takes time to really cut words out, and less is more. So
Yeah.
I think that's your next phase, is how do you refine that down short and sharp? But no, I think that's a great start.
Great, thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, just on that, Helena, I previously didn't really understand what you did, but when you've just explained it that way, I get it. So that was great.
Cool. John and then Emma.
I was going to say, yes, you can call me John. That's just in case you weren't sure how to pronounce it.
This is my own incompetence with names. I'm sorry.
No, all good, Aaron. Like the other delegates, yeah, I've just reworked my quick little pitch, so we'll give it a go.
Right.
My name's John Budgen, and I'm the co-founder of FuseTech. A short disclaimer: I co-founded a medical device business, but I'm not medically trained. I am, however, a passionate manufacturer and an advocate to change a sizable global issue. We were established to solve a global problem. How do surgeons train? Cadavers have been used for centuries in surgical training, but they are costly. They can potentially carry infectious diseases. They're highly regulated and difficult to source. FuseTech uses 4.0 additive manufacturing technology to produce high fidelity, anatomically accurate, fully operable soft tissue models for advanced surgical simulation training. Our mission is to improve healthcare outcomes by providing a safe, affordable, and effective training alternative to upskill residents and continually advance surgical training.
Cool. So that'd be good for, you know, if you had a 30-second to 1 minute pitch, but I'd cut it down for a quick elevator pitch. Yep. Just one thing at the start there. So this is something us Aussies are really guilty of, is chopping ourselves down before someone else can. So one thing I picked up in your opening is, oh, I'm not medically trained. It's like, come out strong, right? So I would take that bit out.
Okay.
Two reasons. One is, yeah, it's partly cultural. I don't know what's wrong with us as Aussies. And it's also like good feature of us too. But I think the other is, to put a blunt hat on, no one cares about you. So they don't want to know your story. They want to know how you help them. Yep. So, and if they do have questions about your background, that can come up later. So I'd actually take that bit out. I can't remember if it was the second or third sentence where you said, like like for you, I think putting that problem space right up front, like it's such a huge problem, right? So put that up front and really own that problem space and say, and if they do ask about your background, go, so what, are you medically trained? Are you this? Said, no, I've got a career in manufacturing and I think I can solve this differently. I bring in a new perspective. So really own that place with authority. So yeah, I think key aspect is, take out that bit about yourself, make it really about that problem piece first, and work on bringing it down to like a 3-liner version.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I quite often don't probably talk up the actual product that we produce. It's very cool, and I quite often get told, no, you'd need to pump it up a bit. So yeah, that's all right. We'll give it a crack.
Mate, it's a very common Aussie trait. It gets very noticeable when you go to places like Silicon Valley and you see some founder stand up on stage talking about how they've solved world hunger and they're actually absolutely done nothing. So, those in overseas markets who know Aussies, they know this. I had an investor I know in the US who said, you can take a US founder and they'll tell you they're smashing it, they're killing it, they're crushing it, they're doing amazingly well, how awesome are they, blah, blah, blah. And you ask an Aussie founder who's at the exact same stage, and the Aussie founder will go, no, mate, we're fucked. Like, so people who get it, our approach is undersell, over deliver, which is great. And I think we should stay true to that. But yeah, to stand out on a global stage, we do have to not speak to the virtues of ourselves, but speak to the virtues of what we've done.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Sweet. Emma and then Stuart.
Hi guys. Yeah, just to that, what you were just talking about, I think Aussies like to level people. If you're too big for your boots, we cut you down. But if you're the underdog, then we want to lift you up. But I've really struggled, especially as a female founder, to remember to back myself in conversation. So in directory, you know how fashion and product stores like John Lewis need to constantly find the latest and best brands to keep their customers happy. And product brands are limited to expensive trade shows and heartbreaking cold outreach while trying to land new stockists. Well, Indirectory is like Tinder, but for matching retail buyers with product brands perfect for their store. In fact, we have facilitated over 100,000 matches so far.
I like that lot. So that last validation, wow, is freaking awesome. And that was really short and concise, so I like it. The opening, so my thought was actually, I don't, as you said, you know how I actually don't know any of that. So I would say you can almost do it like a hard fact. Like the biggest issue facing fashion retailers is, I'm going to make up my own words, so it'll be totally wrong, inappropriate selection of the latest season's fashion.
Yeah.
One season can destroy a brand. What we do is, so you don't have to necessarily play to resonance. You can actually teach them as part of the conversation. So I'd probably lead with it like a statement of fact. I'll see if I can dig out. There's a really good video by Don Miller. I'm a huge fan of Don Miller. He talks about when he gives a keynote or a speech, he never goes out on stage and says, "Hi, I'm Don Miller. I'm going to talk to you today about blah, blah, blah." Like, you know, he just comes out on stage and goes, "We have a serious problem in this country. Our businesses cannot sell themselves to customers."
Yeah.
So he just says a problem and immediately you're engaged, like, shit, yeah, I got that problem. I can't fucking sell it. So I think in your case, it's probably more that category.
Lead with the issue. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, really good. And that traction statement, that's good. That'll definitely, so what you've done in that process is, I understand the problem, you've got a solution, and okay, it is actually a solution because you've got traction. So you're serious, I'm gonna listen to you.
And thank you for that. And just while I have you, I've had a bit of trouble like categorizing in directory because I've come from a wholesale and trade show production background myself. So I haven't come from like a technology software background and known what SaaS is or double-sided marketplaces or social media platforms. I've just solved a problem that's in my industry. So any tips on how I can categorize in directory?
So first of all, just on what you just said, I would say, and again, this is my 2 cents, but drop the word just from how you just described yourself, because it's much better to have come from an industry and actually solved a problem and have people using your solution than to know all the buzzwords and all the lingo and still not be able to get a customer. Yeah. So you're in the better of those 2 boxes. Sorry, what was your question though? You asked
categorizing, like, you know, especially for London Tech Week, even just finding the right kind of events to go to or helping people understand where my business fits. It's a bit of a struggle knowing what category, even filling out some of your forms. I'm like, I don't know, you know.
So category I wouldn't worry about, like as in, am I fintech, am I this, am I that? Like I wouldn't, kind of like with Alice, like I think you could play it in different ways to different audiences. I think how you pitch yourself though, like one way is to say, hey, you know, we're in retail fashion. That's one way, obviously, to say it. Another way to say it though is, we have a marketplace that helps retailers connect with wholesalers. Another way of saying it is we're building a better procurement matching service.
Yeah.
So I think part of it is how are you positioning the company long term? Like what are you? What makes you unique in the market? Because if you say we're a fashion platform, that kept like, sorry, my camera, but that's like really broad. Whereas if you say we're building an analytics engine to better match wholesalers to retailers.
Yeah.
And we're starting with fashion retail through a marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
So that's painting a picture of, wow, okay, so you're building this, but right now you're here. So, and again, I don't know if that's your roadmap or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no short answer. I think it's one of the things you'll uncover during the week when you see what resonates as well.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No worries. Stuart.
Hi, Stuart. Waymaker's leadership software. If you're like most business leaders, you and your team might be drowning in data, which actually is slowing down effective decision-making and killing productivity. In fact, more than 90% of business leaders now say big data is actually hurting their organizations. Our leadership software is kind of like an Apple CarPlay for your business. We ingest your strategy and plan, optimize each person's goals and outcomes, and then simplify your dashboards and scoreboards with some smart and intelligent recommendations so you can hit your next milestone. So we help you make better and faster decisions that reduce risk so you can make more money.
So that end piece I love. So I think maybe bringing that forward.
Yep.
So and again, I'm just totally pitching back what my understanding is, but say it is, we help boards and C-suite executives make, and then whatever you just said, the way we do that is, so that's one approach. The alternative is to say, poor quality decision-making and leadership leads to blah, 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 blah. But I think most people you're going to be pitching to understand the problem space enough to know causality. So I think if you use that end piece first.
Bring that up to the front.
Yep. It reduces all of my calories. I'm going, where are you going with this? What are you doing? Which part of leadership? Because leadership is so broad. Like, are you a coaching program for the next Nelson Mandela, or are you like, what are you? So yeah, I think bring that forward. I'd have good contextual understanding, anchoring straight away, and then go.
And then drop the rest of it, or keep the rest of it as
I probably there was a fair bit in the middle. I'd probably cull out.
Yep.
I think if you say, because you're a dashboard essentially, is that right?
A planner, goals, and dashboards with some
right. So I'd probably if you could say that in 3 words, like exactly like you just did. So that last bit forward, we provide a centralized dashboard planning tool, and then talk about the benefit piece. If you do have traction data, like who was it who just nailed it? Emma. That traction data piece at the end, add that in as well.
Gotcha. So like although in startup, we've now got users in 8 countries.
Awesome. Yep. So
perfect.
Yeah, so maybe we'll just touch on that as a group for a moment. Like, what can you use in that validation piece? So that wow validation piece could be like Emma's, where it's like, we've already completed X transactions. It could be we're already in so many countries. It could be we're already being used by BHP. We're already whatever. Like, whatever is the biggest credibility anchor. If you've got investments from particular people who are good brand credibility factors, like, in fact, we've already closed investment from blah, blah, blah. It's a very quick, why should I take you seriously? Of all the 300 people I'm talking to in this pub, why should I be spending time with you? Oh, shit, you've got 100,000 transactions already done in the first 3 months. Okay, I'm going to put a bit of time into this. So yeah, it could be any sort of value. Maybe it's the ex-head of AI from Google is on my team, or an advisor. But ideally, if you're talking to investors, traction data is best. There's a great little mantra, which is, traction trumps opinion. So people are very quick to dismiss your idea and go, oh, that shit, that'll never work and whatever. It's like, well, I appreciate your perspective, but we've already done 100,000 transactions. So people can't argue with data. Well, they can, but they usually reside on Twitter and end up as trolls. But you have data or opinion, and so try and bring data in. It just makes it more compelling.
Thank you.
Yeah, look, you can. So just in the comments, you can say you're getting global interest, but immediately when I hear that, my spidey senses go off and go, oh, it's you. Someone's talking to you on Twitter. Like, I want to hear actual conversion. So, but you could say we're in discussions with 3 of the biggest multinationals in this space out of the US. yeah, and look, all of us have been entrepreneurs. Like you got to fake it till you make it. You know, when you say we've been in discussion, you've had 2 emails, like we get it. But yeah, whatever your point is, absolutely. Cool. I think we covered everything from the chat. Did everyone get a chance to pitch? I think at this point, given we're a bit over time, and I know people have to jump, any final questions, comments, fears, anxiety, feedback? No, all good. Stuart?
Where can we see that Excel spreadsheet of the week that you had up earlier?
Yeah, so as soon as Murray and I have some sort of sanity that it's not going to completely shift, we will share that in the Slack channel. We probably can at this point. Murray, you feel comfortable enough we could share the screenshot of that today?
Yeah, I'm actually working in the background on tidying it all up for everyone. So yeah, we can share that today.
Okay, awesome.
And there's a few where it said register here. Are we registering ourselves for each event, or do we rely on the delegation?
Yeah, so as much as possible, we're going to register everything for you. The only stuff is where Murray asks you to. So that Tuesday is the main one where you have to register yourself. Anything else that's in the primary column of the schedule, once you see it, we've taken care of. It would be a fair call, except for the Tuesday. But yeah, if in doubt, shout out.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, thanks, everyone. That was a really good session. That was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Aaron. That was great.
That's really good. It's really good. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
See you, everyone.